There you go. We're group 1.
Yay!
Okay. Oh gosh.
All right.
Today.
All right.
So there we go. Sorry.
That was just so enthusiastic.
Hooray! So, where shall we start, everybody? What were some big things that we found out?
What we read this week and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, my post talked a lot about incorporating the community, and so it made me think a lot about different practicums we have through our courses where we're actively engaged in the community. And so, with an ELL 310, where you go garden or where you can go help with kids after school, it made me think about that because you're engaging in the community as kind of a teacher role, but you're just engaging in the community as well. You're a part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to be an active part of the community that you're going to be teaching in. And then, because even if you don't live there, you can still be active in the community. I had teachers growing up that if they knew I had a soccer game, they would come watch me on Saturday.
Aww.
It's that kind of community.
That's so nice.
That's such an dedicated teacher.
I know, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wow.
And then it made me think a lot about our community assets map.
Yeah.
And how definitely looking at strengths instead of weaknesses is really important.
Yeah, and then by being actively engaged in the community and work in the area that these kids are living, you can bring what you know of the community and bring it back into the classroom for real life examples and everything. Hey, remember at your soccer game when you were doing this, this, and this? You could write a story about that, or a writer's workshop or something like that. It's actually an issue I've been having with some of the students in my practicum. Is I'm always there for a writer's workshop.
Yeah.
And so, we've been trying to brainstorm story ideas, and there's this one little boy, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, I don't have anything to write about. I was like, oh, well, did you do something for Halloween? Nope. Did you ever meet a new friend? Nope. And I'm like, okay, buddy, I'm going to try to work with you here, because we need a story for you, but you don't want to write about anything. So if I was really involved in this community and knew what he did outside of school, I could have more and better suggestions for him. So
And I think that totally relates to knowing each student's background too.
Yeah.
Because let's say it was me and you knew that they had a soccer game on Saturday. You could be how did your soccer game go? And if a teacher told me that, that'd be so unexpected, especially if I didn't know that they were there.
Yeah.
If it was just they took the time to remember that. Even interpersonal connections, right? If you know a friend did something you saw on Facebook and then you bring it up later, even though you had no attachment to you weren't even there. If you bring it up, it's always it's nice. It's comforting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we got in the car this morning, I was I didn't realize it was this weekend, but I was hey, how was Oprah? But then I was oh, it's this weekend.
No, but you still thought of it.
Yeah, I was about to get in the car. I was oh, I have to ask her how Oprah was. That's so cool.
It opens up great dialogue, which I feel is really important. And then you can definitely feed off and use that in your lessons.
Yeah.
And adapt it to what you're learning.
I think the best classrooms that I've seen where they have really good classroom community are the classrooms where the teachers just really make a point to every day have a conversation that's really casual with every single student and just ask them about how their night was or what they've been doing or just have a super casual conversation that just asks them about their life and
care
it's
about
just
them
really
as,
personable.
Care about them as people as well as students,
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
I really like the morning meeting sort of thing.
I like that too.
Let's all come together. How are we doing this morning? Who's tired? I'm tired. Who this? Because then you can kind of, even if it's just put a thumb up if you feel exhausted today. Then you can gauge how attentive they're going to be or how disengaged they might be.
Yeah.
So
and it makes you more personable too, because then it's showing that you're not just the teacher. You're a person too.
Yeah.
Some days you wake up and you're just as exhausted as the students are, and
Exactly.
you're a real person. I think that definitely breaks down that barrier.
Yeah, I remember so many times in school, I always saw, I would see my teacher, outside of school, or my teacher would say something about, their family or going on vacation. You mean you don't sleep
You're
here in the
a
classroom?
real person?
You don't live here? Wait. You're
Sometimes it feels like
You live
they
there.
do, and we do.
Oh, I kind of do. But, I mean, yeah. But, with the community thing, I like where you went, and then I kind of went a different direction with, talking about, the community, like creating community of the classroom. Like everybody is like a different member of the little classroom community. So I like how we had 2 different interpretations of classroom community.
Totally. I like thought about it that way, but then I related it more to like just I don't know, I guess like what is we're comfortable with. But I definitely like when I read your post, I was like, that's awesome that you thought about it as in like classroom community and not just general community. Because like a school is a community, right?
Right.
But it's also a community inside of an actual community.
Yeah. So it's like communityception.
Totally.
It is.
But I think definitely, like you said, like creating a good classroom community is really vital.
Yeah, like I had a really good like experience with that today even. So like I'm in this little first grade classroom and we were working on our rainbow words. So it was like our vocabulary for the day. And I was like working in this big group because like I was having the problem with, oh Misty, can you come work with me? Can you come work with me? I need help. I was like, let's all like work together. Let's like come over to this table. It doesn't matter if you don't sit here, come over. Anyway, so we're all working together and this adorable little girl, like whenever we would say the word, like one of the words was that. And she would immediately spout off with, that is a lot of Halloween candy. And she would always come up with these great examples of how to use the sentence. And then when the other students heard her, they would start using their own examples. And like everyone was like using the vocabulary. I was like, this is so awesome. Way to go. You're learning and using it. Anyway, and so I was thinking about that later on. I was like, you know, not everybody would be so open to her like just sharing out her ideas like that. Like, and that's like a real talent to be able to just like quickly think like, oh, I could use it this way. So she's a really quick thinker, and she shared that with the group and helped build the classroom community as learners. And so if the group had been like, hey, you're being a know-it-all, or hey, don't talk out, you're being really annoying right now, that would have like, first of all, would have like really hurt her self-esteem and everything, and then we would have missed out on that really good opportunity as a community to learn these words. So it's like that creating that community with these differences, like this little girl's different, but different in a good way, and we acknowledged that and used it and made the learning environment a lot better. So I was like, that's how I see a classroom community, is like being okay with people's differences and learning from each other. So that was just a cool little moment I had today.
No, that's awesome that she was able to like encourage other students, because I've had experiences like that where then it opens up like maybe kids who are shyer and don't want to talk a lot in class, and then they feel like it's an okay opportunity to. So then they're like, oh, that cat is so cute, and then they're so proud of themselves that they were able to do that in like a larger small group, especially if they're really shy. Yeah. And then you just want to go, I just want to give you a hug.
Right. And like she was helping this other student right next to, who's like the student I'm focusing on for my case study.
Gotcha.
And like she's an English language learning student, and this little girl was inspired by this girl and was saying her own sentences in a language that she's learning. I was like, yes, this is so great. You're helping her with her learning English. Well, pat on the back for you, or high five, because that's more appropriate for the teacher.
You're just like, good job.
Good job. You were really great.
How do you guys think that, like, what are your strategies that you've been learning or like incorporating in your like teaching that you want to use to create a community in a classroom?
There was something today in my service learning also that I guess it's not necessarily community, it's more of I'll just talk about it. So there's a lot of students today who were like interrupting, and the teacher was like, you know, when you interrupt, that's, you know, not respectful, that's disrespectful, yada, 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 it goes into that. And he was like, a lot of these students aren't happy because they're going to be spending their recess with me to learn about how to, like, act properly in the classroom. And so he brought them over to, like, their number corner. And in their number corner on a wall was just pictures. There's pictures of kids raising their hands, pictures of kids with hands in their lap, pictures of kids sitting crisscross watching the teacher, yada, yada, yada. And so he's like, what do you guys notice about these, you know, about these students? What do you guys see that they're doing? What does it look like they're, you know, all these things? And they're like, they're sitting quietly, they're raising their hands, they're, you know, and although it's not necessarily, but it does help to create a community, because if you do always have somebody, you know, speaking out. And that was the point. He talked to me after. He was like, I'm really trying to emphasize there's some students here who just, they know something, they blurt it out, and they don't give the rest of the community a chance to, like, critically think about it. Mm-hmm. So he's saying that that's a really important thing for the students to focus on. So he had them, you know, work on that. But That's something I thought that was really cool that I could. It was just pictures, just kids raising their hands and stuff. So.
And I like that he didn't just single out a certain student.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was something also in like those little case study videos that we were talking about, like with the student who was like saying the rude comments.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, like, oh, it's better to address the whole class instead of just singling this one student out. So those students who were interrupting, it's good that the teacher addressed everybody and
Mm-hmm.
like reiterated those classroom rules and
Mm-hmm.
about respect and everything as a community. So it's like it's not just, oh, you did a bad thing, you should work on this. No, it's like, hey everybody, we're a community, let's work together and improve on this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's really cool.
And he really focuses too. He's like kindergartners. Like, if you have a problem, what can you do to solve the problem? He like really puts it on them. Like,
Independent.
And so, as independent thinkers, it makes them like responsible and accountable for the actions that they choose to or to not do. So, and I think that's beneficial.
In our, this reminds me of the situation that happened just yesterday. In our practicum, someone wrote something really inappropriate on the bathroom sign-out sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And so our teacher gets up and she goes in front of the class and she says, "Class, someone wrote something inappropriate on this sheet. I'm not going to say it out loud.
What grade?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade. You know who you are.
Yeah.
And I want you to know." She didn't like single anyone out, even if she knew who it was, but she said, "I want you to know that is inappropriate and that is not how we act in the fourth grade." And then she was saying something like, she said something about like how it's not respectful to others or something, or how
it's hurtful.
it's hurtful.
Yeah.
And she said something about how it was really hurtful for someone to say that. And then she said, "Well, if it continues, then we might have to
Have bathroom buddies.
And take away some of your bathroom privileges."
Mm.
But it wasn't like she was saying,
Like scolding.
You're the troublemaker, Caitlin. You're the bad kid. I'm giving you like a
A bad mark.
Marking your permanent.
She was kind of making it like a classroom. As a class, we're not gonna do this. Like she wanted to, what I'm saying?
No,
I
it was
totally
really
know.
effective because you could tell all students were like, someone did that. Like, why would they do that? And then they really got them to think. Like, I feel like it even got them to think if they weren't even the students that did it. They were like, that's really disrespectful. Like, they like really got to internalize it, even if it wasn't them that did it. Because you could tell like after that happened, like the room was a whole different tempo.
Yeah.
It was a whole different room. Like they all felt guilty that like the whole class had kind of violated the rules.
See, that's so cool that they had
And
like
that's
that
important.
community
Yeah.
feeling, like that there aren't just a whole bunch of individuals. Well, they are individuals, but like together they are a community, and a community is affected by any negative kind of thing like that. So it's like you learn and grow, and you learn and grow as a community. I like that.
Yeah, I forget what the rules were, so I guess this is like irrelevant to even say, but I was watching like a TED Talk last night, and it was like some educational thing, and he had 4 really good class norms.
Yeah.
I wish I could remember them, but they were awesome, and they were like said in like, I don't know, like speak clearly, like read like authentically, like things like that, not just like be a reader, be a writer, it was just like really like what do you want out of
Hard hitting.
yeah, and they were cool. I just can't remember them.
You have to come back with that.
Yeah.
Or post the video on our group.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, if I can
that.
find it, I don't know if I can.
If you're like me, you watch lots of TED Talks.
Yeah,
So,
I
and
know.
even went through your history, it's like, I don't know which one this
I
one.
want to watch more TED Talks. It looks really cool.
Yeah, they're great.
They're just really inspiring.
They're
like, they get
addicting,
you
too.
equally just as excited to be teaching already.
Oh,
Really though.
They do, though.
Girl, I have time for that.
Girl, fine time.
Yeah, fine time. Some of those videos are prime.
Fine time.
guess I'll skip an episode
Yeah.
of More Girls tonight.
What do you mean to skip an episode?
What?
Do like an
Some
episode?
TED Talks are like 5 minutes.
Or not
Oh,
even.
no.
There's some that are like 3.
Yeah.
They're very like quick and to the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you want.
Okay,
Concise.
gotta wait.
Others
for
are 30. Dedicate some time to that.
Nice. I'll kind of do homework at the same time.
Yeah, is it like it's something you can have like on in the background or something like that?
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah, I
You
feel like
gotta-
it's more kind of like.
You really gotta focus.
So
I really wanna get out
we
of it.
kind of talked about community.
I can
We
dig
didn't really
community.
talk about diversity, but Do we want to move on to the videos?
I would love to talk about the videos.
Like the case study video thing?
The case study videos, or the one video that was in the group page or the
Yeah.
session page.
With the man.
Yeah,
Yes.
that one.
Sorry, I didn't quite get a chance to watch it, but
You said something happened with your computer. Sometimes with the videos,
I
they're a
don't
little
get
weird.
why. Yeah, it's so weird. Like my computer just like pickups a lot. I don't get it, but like I will try to get to work again tonight so I can like see what we're talking about. But we also have to start watching one of the school computers or something just in case.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
No big deal. Braylon, what did you think of the first video?
The one of the man or the one of the case study?
Or
Or
not
not
the
the case study, the
I tell you, the scenario.
The
Scenario.
scenario.
Whatever one you want to talk about first. Which one did you get more out of, or like which one did you get more insight?
Well, I didn't really like the one with the man. We was talking about sustainability, diversity. I personally thought that his argument was on a platform of assumptions, and so he just was talking about things that I don't really agree with. I don't believe in evolution, and so his platform was upon evolution. And since I didn't believe in that, everything, his argument that he was building off of and he was talking about, just kind of built off of that assumption that I believed in that. And since I didn't believe in it, I was like,
I think it like just brings us a
You know.
good point on how we teach to like why it's important not to bring too much of our own personal opinions into a classroom and what we teach on. And like it's like a lot of respect for all different types of beliefs and all different cultures and everything. Because like obviously not everybody's going to agree on everything, and not everyone's going to have the same beliefs as us. And so it's important to take that into consideration when we're making our points. Like even with like how the classroom community is functioning and like how we behave and everything. So it's like it's good to get like all types of opinions in so you can understand what your class believes and how to respect those beliefs. 'Cause
yeah, actually, that reminds me of our science practicum when Erica asked, do Jehovah's Witnesses celebrate Halloween? Or did she say Thanksgiving too?
I don't know.
She
They don't
said,
celebrate.
should they celebrate this? And we were like, oh, I don't know, because she wanted to do a lesson about Thanksgiving and about like different.
They don't even celebrate their own birthdays.
Yeah, so
Like, they're not-
she has a few in her class, and so she was like, oh, what am I gonna do about that? She was thinking about how that might affect you know,
what-
how it would make them uncomfortable maybe.
Yeah, or
You
like,
know,
like excluded from the group. Like, oh, y'all celebrate that. I don't celebrate
Yeah.
that. I'm not part of this community.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think that's a really good point to bring up. Like I just felt like he was talking about evolution as if it was a fact, and evolution is still just a theory. So that's why I just didn't agree with it. So I feel like in our classroom, like maybe a practical application of that is that you can think about, in the history books, you can talk about the first Thanksgiving because that's part of our history.
Yeah, it's historical facts.
But maybe don't emphasize that it's, or if you know you have students that don't celebrate it, you know, it might make them really uncomfortable to have a whole unit over the next couple of weeks until Thanksgiving, you know, about Thanksgiving when they're not even going to be celebrating and it won't even relate to them.
And they might not have any background knowledge on that.
Exactly.
If you've never celebrated it, the only thing you might know is that people eat turkeys, because there's a lot of turkeys.
Yeah, and
That's
then
great.
Vegetarian.
you talk about like you make a joke about something and then they need all that background to understand the joke and they're like, oh, I've never celebrated Thanksgiving, so it doesn't make any sense. And this could also be related to students that come from different cultures where it's not even, we're not talking about Thanksgiving anymore, but like you make it a joke and they don't even understand the culture, so it makes no sense to them. So like this is just another element of that, I think.
Yeah, it's something I've been thinking about since before even like entering the education programs. Like, you know, I love Christmas. I love like that whole time of year. But I'm like, oh wow, I'm gonna have to be really careful in my classroom to not
Happy holidays.
And then I'm like, okay, but they don't even celebrate holidays. So I was thinking like one idea was like to teach about holidays and not be like, we're gonna celebrate Christmas. We're gonna have a Christmas party. We're gonna be like this is the celebration of Christmas. They do this, and this.
Did you ever? Sorry, I'm trying to interrupt you. Did you ever get to do that in elementary school?
No, I never did.
So, an interesting experience. In second grade, we did a whole unit in like after, like a little bit before Thanksgiving, and I remember it because it was like one of my best experiences. We learned all about how different cultures celebrate the holidays.
That's so cool. See,
And we did like different art projects, and we like sang songs. We ate food. We had parents come in and talk about what they do. We had like people from the community.
So
It was like
great.
a very big community engagement project,
There
and I
you
learned
go.
so much about. I learned so much about how other cultures celebrate the holidays or this time of year, or their lack of. Maybe they don't celebrate. Like I learned about a variety of cultures, and to my knowledge, like of course I was in second grade, so I didn't really know like what people celebrated at home. Like I celebrate Christmas, so of course, like as a second grader, for the most part, you're gonna assume does everyone celebrate Christmas? Like that's just the mentality until like you're like you celebrate Hanukkah. Like that's interesting.
What is Hanukkah? Like,
Yeah.
Even to this day, I'm not like totally 100% sure what all is celebrated with Hanukkah. And so I'd like to learn more about that, and then I'm still not sure what all goes into Kwanzaa or like anything all
So
that.
what like holes that you want to fill.
Yeah,
with
like-
more knowledge.
It's like funny that even at this age, this far in my education, I'm still not totally sure. I mean, like for Pete's sake, the most that I know about Hanukkah and its history, I learned from an episode of Rugrats when I was a kid.
There's definitely a few more things than that.
And they were like going over the history, and I was like, I just see little Tommy Pickles in a costume. That's like what extends my knowledge. So I just think it'd be like really cool, like, and not just for like the winter holidays, but like for all different types of holidays.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be a really awesome community building experience because you can engage all their like backgrounds and just make them feel like their beliefs or their traditions from home are important and everyone's different. Like and celebrate diversity.
Yeah,
in
you
your
get to
classroom.
validate
You
that.
get to say everyone's different and that's great.
Yeah, and then like instead of like a Christmas party, just like and not like just say like a holidays party. Each person bring in if you don't celebrate a holiday, bring in your favorite dish. You know, just something to share from your culture or something like that. It would be so much fun.
Yeah, I think the only things to be cautious about is like stereotypes.
Yeah.
Perpetuating stereotypes and if students, don't celebrate.
Especially because in like some children's books I've noticed when it comes to holidays, those can be very
It's
stereotypical.
sulky. Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
it's not something to be taken lightly.
And exactly. And then I just had it again, but then I just lost it.
Sorry.
And just like when you think of that,
Yeah.
this is something else I noticed. I was walking around the little book fair today at our school because of course book fair. Anyway, so I was walking around and I see like this like gifts table and there's this book there, like a little Disney book, and it was like I said Christmas stories. And so I looked at it. I was like, okay, so we got like Rapunzel's on the cover, a lot of the Disney princesses, a lot of the Disney characters. I'm like, that seems a little excluding a little bit. Like, could that be? Do you think that would be excluding towards kids? Like, to see these characters only celebrating Christmas?
Yeah,
of
definitely.
course. Why is Aladdin celebrating Christmas?
Yeah.
When
He's
you know what I mean?
Arabian,
Yeah.
He's Islamic.
not saying that Islamic people don't, or like
I get what you mean.
Right, and then that brings up
Just
the,
because
like,
you're from like wherever doesn't mean you can't celebrate Christmas.
And then,
Right,
and then
yes.
for little kids are gonna be like, how come we don't celebrate Christmas
Exactly.
like Rapunzel? Why? Like that's a hard hitting question. And that's
Mhm.
definitely like something that a kid could bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Like why is she only celebrating Christmas? When at least to my knowledge, nowhere in the story does it clarify what holiday she celebrates, or even what religion she's affiliated with, or what kind of culture she has.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, the most that you see in that movie is, like, the priest who marries them. That's it. But it's like, yeah, I was just like, that just kind of, like, got to me a little bit, like, that, like, if I weren't a Christian and I didn't celebrate Christmas, like, I love Disney, obviously. I mean, I'm a Disney nerd. And so I love these characters, and they're like, I don't really feel like I'm connected to them as much as I used to be, you know? Like, I guess I'm such a hard believer in, like, representation in media for kids.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
so
It's
important.
crucial.
very crucial.
Yeah, so it's just like that kind of just like stood out to me today. I was like, okay, we really need to be careful about that. Like, let's have a Jewish Disney character who celebrates Hanukkah and shows us about that, or someone who celebrates Kwanzaa. It's like,
Yeah, there's a big Indiegogo campaign in the literacy world right now that their mission is to get more diversity in children's books.
That's good.
And
I saw that.
I posted it.
Yeah, you did.
I
Where did you
Facebooked
post
it on Facebook.
oh my
You
gosh,
can find each other.
yeah, why did I see that?
But no, it's like a really big movement, and they're raising tons of money to provide more opportunities for students to have more exposure to like authors and illustrators who are like writing these cultural and authentic literature, and then inspiring more students to write, and it's just like a really big movement, and I'm just really happy to be a part of it.
That's so cool.
I'll send it your way, but I was really digging it. We think a lot about Joy's class, the culturally relevant materials class.
Oh, like I was at Costco the other day and I found this Jan Brett book, and it was the gold. Like I'm sure you all heard of it. It's like the Goldilocks, but it was like the Inuit Goldilocks.
I'm not familiar with that.
It's like the 3 polar bears, and so I was reading through the whole thing. I was like, it's using all this cool Inuit language and everything, and then the end of the book ends with not like her running away scared, but she's like, "Bye, thank you," and they're like, "Bye, Goldilocks."
I love that.
It's like it has so much beautiful cultural art and everything, and like so much of the Inuit culture that you learn about, and then it has such a nice happy ending to it. I'm like, I was like there with my roommate. I was like, "Oh my god, you gotta look at this!" And like, okay, Allie.
That's such a cute book.
Like adorable. I love Jan Brett. It's cool.
I remembered my other thing real fast.
Oh, gotcha, go.
It's like 2 seconds. Just that making sure every student in your class is being represented.
Agreed.
Even
So
it,
much.
like, you can't be like, okay, so here's Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, and Christmas.
Yep.
Like, and somebody else is like, well, I do this. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just making sure everybody feels validated,
No.
regardless of what it is.
No,
Very
You know,
good point.
so yeah. that was my
Maybe
other
what they do on Christmas is they watch movies with their family.
Exactly.
And
Bring their
they,
favorite movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
that's
okay,
still, if that's what you celebrate, that's
I
totally
feel
what
like,
you
well,
should do.
because you have a Christmas break that you get that break. So I feel like families naturally make traditions.
Yeah.
Even if they don't celebrate any sort of holiday that day, I feel like they have family traditions that you
Yeah.
talk about, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and in high school I did a whole big project on like different traditions you have with your family. And like a lot of them aren't tied to holidays.
Mhm.
It's just, you know what, on Sundays my family and I do this, and that's not the same for every person.
Right.
Like everyone has different traditions with their family. So maybe like you said, maybe placing more focus on that is
Tradition.
even more vital.
Yeah.
Because that's universal. Everyone has traditions. I would bet to argue.
And you know, going off of the idea of every student being represented equally, that kind of brings up what I was talking about in my jigsaw part. And like I was talking about, you know, the liberal democracy in the classrooms. Oh God, what am I going to talk about for this?
Yeah, you had a very hard hitting section, I felt like.
Thank you. Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh. So like for a task I was thinking about was like about representation of each and every student. So I was thinking like, okay, liberal democracy, what can we do as an activity, especially, you know, with the voting thing going on right now?
Yeah.
You kind of a cool little experiment to do with your class. So it's like if your class is like set up in tables and everything, to have each table group be kind of like a little republic, you know, like like a little state.
Yeah.
And then have one representative from each table. And so all of them, like if you have to make a big decision in the classroom, like I think the example I used was like, what do we have to do to earn our pajama party?
Oh, okay.
And so it's like each table group would discuss with each other, share their ideas, and then come together and make a decision, and then bring that to the rest of the class. So it's just like, this could be kind of like a little republic
That's cute.
democracy.
I like that.
And then each student could have a say, and then they would have like their representative to represent their ideas. And then of course you like switch representatives.
That could be such a fun like literacy and like social studies
Yeah.
little combined lesson.
Exactly.
Because you could give each one like a role, and
Mhm.
That's cute.
my mind's spinning over here.
Right?
I love it.
It'd be so fun.
That's very
Because
creative.
like each student's gonna have like their own little I won't say little, it's condescending. Each of them's gonna have their own opinion about like how the classroom should be run. So it's giving them each a voice. Like we all have a voice when we vote. So I was like, I think I took the democracy thing kind of literally.
I think
Yeah.
I think that's not a bad attitude.
No,
I think
me
it's
neither.
where you should have let anyone.
Yay!
I know. I took it differently because mine was like talking about sustainability. I think in democracy.
And biodiversity.
Yeah,
Oh.
diversity and
Yeah.
democracy. I think was mine, or
Okay.
something like that. Maybe even sustainability too. I don't know. But so have you guys seen Precious Knowledge, the
Yes.
documentary?
Love
Okay,
that
I
one.
feel like I've said this like a billion times then.
So
So the
It's a life changing.
poem, it is. So the poem where he's like emphasizing tu eres mi otro yo.
I
you are
love
my
that
baby.
you. I love that you put that in
So
your post.
I was like, that is like, I think that's a great way to build community.
Mhm.
A great way, like, once you have that community built, people are more comfortable sharing their opinions,
Yeah.
which aids in democracy. And, like, I didn't really know about sustainability, but just those, because democracy is important, everybody feeling valued and like validated and stuff. And yeah, just the diversity part, especially for ELL students, when they're getting the opportunity to feel comfortable in their native language, but also getting the chance, if it is Spanish, but also simultaneously English as well. So
I love that you posted that.
Yeah,
I thought that was a good
I
connection.
love that poem so much. It's so beautiful. I want it in my class somehow. So
Yeah, like a poster or something like that. Like next to the classroom.
And then just read it all together. You know,
be like Curtis and do it all together.
I know.
Every day,
I
at
want
the
it.
start of
I
the day,
do.
at morning circle.
Yeah.
That would be
It's
so
a great way to
cute.
set the tone, you know? Just like, we are all together, we are all one, let's do this, you know?
Great mentality,
yeah.
great
I
ideas.
love it, it's so cute.
That reminds me of this adorable song that they were playing in my classroom this morning. It's called Mosaic. And like, oh yeah, it's so great because like each, like the M-O, blah 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 blah, because my spelling is wonderful.
SAI.
S-A-I-C.
Yeah.
Each letter, thank you. Each letter stood for like some different like value. So it's like some were like self-acceptance, self-respect kind of thing. There's like acceptance, community.
That's nice.
It was just so nice, and then like even after the song was over, like later during work time, like the students were still singing it, and so I was like, oh my gosh, it's so great. And I was like, I went up to my teacher, I was like, what is this song? I love it. I want to play it in my classroom. So I just think like having like those kind of like daily reminders. Yeah, it's building on the classroom community, you know, with these ideas. So.
And like you hear those things enough times, like you are my other me. It's like how would I want to be treated? Like it's
ingrained.
Yeah, and you know, hearing it so many times, it's like wow, you are like my brother, you are like my sister, you know, and you treat people like that, and then it comes together. It just needs like that routine and practice, really.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's so cool.
And that's like what it's like. If you hear or say things so many times, like you really
Believe it.
You really believe it.
Yeah.
And that's how especially those things, that's how it should be.
Yeah. I just love that poem. Every time I'm like,
yeah, you are
not literally,
you are
but
my other me. Like, whoa, it's so deep.
Beautiful. I know.
So deep, so poetic. I love it.
The kindergartners, you are my other me. No, not really, but
Oh, so cute.
I love that.
What did you guys think of kind of going spin-off classrooms in the case study and our whole like dissection of the laws this week? Made me think a lot about SPED, like SPED 364. Because we talked a lot about those laws, in depth, like all the parts of IEP and every law that's passed that has to do with that. And there was like a whole section about ELLs and stuff. And so, but the video really stuck with me because it really made it feel real to me. So what did you guys think of the video about the students and how the teachers are reacting, and what do you think their next move should be?
There's just a lot. I know we've gone over those rules before and those laws, and now we're going over them again. There's a lot to them that you maybe wouldn't think about. That I remember when she was talking about Osman.
Oh yeah.
And they're saying, oh, you actually can't do that. What was it?
Swearing. Yeah, he was like saying.
They were saying that you couldn't. She suggested something that she could possibly do, and they were like, oh, actually, you can't do that because it would
the student translating.
Oh yeah.
The sister translating. Yeah, it was like
it was the sister
you can't
translating
actually do that because it would hurt family dynamics, which is a really great point. And I was like, well, I wouldn't even thought of that, and I don't know. There's just so much to think about, which is why I think it's just so important to have like teacher collaboration.
Yeah,
definitely.
I feel like in the future that's going to be so important.
Yeah, that's something I was talking about in this section about like first thing I would do is like, okay, I'm going to just kind of calm down, take a step back, and go talk to some other teachers and see if they've dealt with a similar situation, see what they did, or if they've even worked with the same student, maybe had the same
more
problem.
insight.
Yeah, and like in creating teacher community, you know, like helping each other out.
I just thought the video really made me think about because like, if you were having a problem with like a brother and sister, like let's say you've had both, or like you're trying to communicate with the parents, like what was happening in the scenario. I think even a student would be like, oh, just let me translate for my mom, and then we can talk about it. Like I could see easily where a student could think that, oh, I'll just do that for you.
Yeah.
They want to be helpful. They want to try to help. But definitely, like when they said like no ruin like family dynamics, I was like, that definitely would. Like, it was just, like, mind explosion. I know we, like, touched on that, like, a second, I think, like, 2 weeks ago, but then, like, having it, like, reiterated again this week, I was like, that's so true. And that's why I need interpreters or translators, reach out in a variety of ways.
And it could be interpreted, like, in a biased way for the child, you know what I mean? Like, the child could be like, oh, well, the teacher said this, you know? When it's not, and not anything against the kids that they would do that, but they could, you know?
Well, yeah, they're probably trying, like, they might feel threatened by this and want to defend themselves.
Exactly.
So if they're telling your parents, they're like, oh my gosh, I can get in big trouble for this with my parent, I'm going to kind of lessen it a little bit. Like,
change the wording so it's not as intense or like
like,
you know, whatever.
I didn't punch him. I just like I attacked him a little bit.
Yeah.
You know. Like, so that's why I think like the interpreter would be really important because they're also a very neutral party.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't like have the like maybe the emotions of either party being in there. So.
And then I liked how in your post you touched on the fact that it needs to be like a teacher that isn't directly involved. Like definitely I thought that was really important because equally like let's say in the future, like part of ours is you can get a bilingual endorsement. So there's in the future, we could definitely have a teacher who speaks Spanish or speaks another language of our ELLs. And it could be easy to just be like, oh hey, I'm gonna pull you out, I need your help. Because people want to be helpful. Like I feel like teachers we want to be helpful. And so it just like I feel like it's ingrained. And definitely, if that teacher also has exposure with the student, like that's not a good match and that's not fair. And so that definitely made me think about that too.
It kind of reminds me of like when I was in middle school, I did peer. Like, did you ever have peer mediators, like peer mediation?
Yes.
Like, where you were a student and you would go and help other students. So it's just like I got called in like a couple times to do it. And I was just like I was very neutral. I was like, oh, I'm being really helpful. You know, I'm not friends with either of these people. I just want to help them out. So little side story.
I feel like, though, in the video, they were talking about how the teacher could call the parent because they can understand English. So if you spoke Spanish, and your parent spoke Spanish too, call them. Tell them what's going on in the classroom. I think that's important. Like, I don't know, just depends on the situation, maybe. I don't think like you need someone else to tell a situation that you were the first-hand witness of. Like, she was talking about how you don't want it to go through multiple people and that's second-hand information. So just, I don't know, it depends if it's really serious.
Yeah, I think it is very situational, you're right.
But then even regardless, like you're still going to want to send like good notes over. You're going to want to call out good things too. And so that's what's important about making like your first interaction. Like I've heard that so many times.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Make your first interaction a positive reaction, or reaction. Like make it important and positive. Like and you really want to build that partnership for that child.
Yeah. And this just reminds me of like two different things. One, when I was in a classroom and they were talking about how when you have parent conferences, always start with like positive things and start with good things because it just like makes the parent realize that you really are there for the student's well-being and you want the best for the student and the student isn't screw up.
Like, I felt like a lot of parents have like had those bad experiences with like feeling so worried, like, okay, what did my kid do this time? What's going on? Like, okay, come on, teach. Give me the down and dirty, you know, like. But then, like, just starting off with like, your student has made so much improvement, or your student. Yes, this is my student.
I was talking to an old family friend, and he has children the same age as myself and my sisters and stuff, and he was asking me about the program and stuff, and I was talking about what I was doing, and then I'm going to be a teacher, and he was like, oh, that is so good. I just remember that he said his son, he was like, when my son had this awful teacher, and I went in to go volunteer and to go talk with the parent or the teacher one day, and all she had to say were negative things about my student, and all she had to say about my student were awful things, and I was just like, you don't have one nice thing to say about my child. Like, and he like obviously had some like really like negative feelings toward this teacher,
especially this was years ago.
And this was years ago.
Yeah.
This was probably like
when we were in elementary school.
Yeah,
I feel like we all like had that.
This was like 15 years ago, and so it was just like, whoa, I do not want to be that teacher.
yeah, it's like we all have like that one teacher, that one person on the faculty that we just like, oh, you just don't go there, don't even mention that person's name to me. Like, I have a teacher, I usually do. Now I think of it, like, it's like, you just think back and you're like, oh my god, I do not want to be that teacher. I remember just like, all these horror stories. Like, I transferred schools because of this teacher.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Like, half my class transferred because of this teacher. She was terrible. And her student teacher was like her little sidekick, you know? It was very bad.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, I remember I just felt so, like, I felt like I wasn't learning anything in that class. I felt very, like, dumb.
Belittled?
Belittled, that's the word for it. Because, like, I remember one time, we were, like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of going to ramble this for a second, but, like, we were supposed to be, like, editing our papers. And so I went up to the student teacher and was like, hey, can I edit my own paper? And she's like, oh, yeah, sure, go for it. So I went and I edited my own paper, turned it in. Next day, I get called by this teacher, and she's like, no, you were not supposed to edit your own paper. She was just putting me down for this. The student teacher was right there. She didn't back me up at all. She was just,
That's terrible.
yeah, so it's just like, long story short, you know, it's like I think back to this teacher, I'm like, I will not be that teacher. I am never going to be that teacher. So, yeah, it's, yeah.
It's unfortunate. But
Another part of the video that I thought was interesting is when they were talking about the woman RE student who didn't turn in her homework.
Oh.
And it was her mom was also starting classes as well. And it was, she was doing like adult education. And none of the teachers ever brought up the fact that maybe she wasn't able to get homework help at home. And that it's also her mom's going to school. So obviously like, there's a different family dynamic. Like, they barely touched on that, and I thought that was very interesting, because I figured since this was, like, a scenario that we were supposed to kind of take, like, realistically, like, this is how these meetings kind of should go, and we should, like, learn more from them and, like, how they will actually be run. I was kind of, like, interested that they didn't bring that up, because I was like, they brought up that she was starting to take classes and that her English was getting better, but never the fact that maybe that was related to why that she wasn't
getting
her homework.
done, yeah. Oh,
And
I
so-
didn't think that.
So I'm watching the video and I was just like, I think this dynamic is just completely like either intentionally left out or I'm thinking like too critically or
You're just like, dude, she's taking classes, man. Like, you're just sitting there like, okay, I have the answer. I'm trying to, how do I tell these people?
I kind of was just like, I just feel like there's some things getting left out, and so during that video it just like really got me to think that it's really important to think about when you're trying to do what's best for the kid, especially in those like IEP meetings or when you're talking about those, like it's just really important to get like an overall sense of each child. Like what's going on at home, what's going on at school, are there any changes? And I thought a lot of things were left out of the video, like maybe she's not showing her homework because she really doesn't understand the material. Maybe it's too hard, maybe it's way too easy. Like there was just, I was like overanalyzing that video and I was just like, I think a lot of things were left out and I thought maybe it was intentional, but I'm interested to know what you guys thought. Or if maybe you didn't even think about it like that. I took a lot from that video, I guess.
That's a really positive way to think about it, because the first thing I thought of was like, oh, there's not a culture of doing your homework at home, maybe.
Mm-hmm. No, that's definitely a good point. Like, there's so many other things. And then,
But
like, as
that's
a
really negative.
But, like, no, like, as a teacher, though, if you're not sitting down and, like, what is it? Teachers are busy. Like, we know that. Like, there so much has to get done. And for you to critically sit down and be like, I wonder why, 3 of my students aren't turning in their homework. They're going to get a list of reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
And you're never, unless you get to really talk with the parent and really talk with the student, you're never going to know. And so it's just really important to, like, make those interactions and really understand what's going on, to understand all the dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that that's how you thought about it.
Yeah.
Because that's not how I thought about it.
Me neither.
Well, I mean, I just had a quick. They were really brief scenarios.
They were kind of
There weren't
snappy.
very many details, so like there was a lot of ways we could have taken them.
Yeah, no, totally.
But-
Which in real life, that's exactly how it could be. That's exactly what could happen. If that's all the details you know, you're going to be like, oh, well, maybe it's this, and then maybe that's what you go with. Like, that's totally true. That's
Anyways,
very applicable.
Time's up.
We win!
Not to be snappy or anything, but.